Hi, RBC. I've got another scripture for us for our meditation and hopefully for our instruction today. It's from the Old Testament, from Job chapter 1. It says, "There was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright, one who feared God and turned away from evil." And then the paragraph lists all of his possessions and all of his successes and even his beautiful family and everything that he had. But then something interesting happens. In verse 6, it says, "There came a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. And the Lord said to Satan, 'Where have you come from?' And Satan answered the Lord and said, 'From going to and fro around the earth, and from walking up and down on it.' And the Lord said to Satan, 'Have you considered my servant Job? There's no one like him on all the earth. He's a blameless and upright man who fears God and turns away from evil.' Then Satan answered the Lord and said, 'Does Job fear God for no reason? Have you put a hedge around him and his house and all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands and his possessions, and he has increased in the land. But stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face.' And the Lord said to Satan, 'Behold, all that Job has is in your hand. Only against him do not stretch out your hand.' So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord." I just picked this text because in a very unique way, almost a humorous and ironic way, it shows us something important about God. Satan says here to God, "Hey God, you have put a hedge of protection around Job." He says that in verse 10 of Job chapter 1. Now we know that Satan is a liar and the father of lies, but actually what Satan says here is true. Satan's acknowledging that God really is in control of Job's life. Satan is acknowledging the exhaustive and meticulous providence of God over everything that has ever happened to Job. And this is something, the providence of God, a true doctrine stated even from the lips of the devil here, that ought to give us comfort. There's no event, no circumstance, no virus, no financial hardship, no unforeseen set of circumstances that will enter into our lives that doesn't pass through the very fingers, the very hedge that God himself makes around us. Satan's right about that. And so I want to encourage you to trust in God's providence. But then in the very next verse, verse 11, Satan says something that he's wrong about. Did you catch that? It says in verse 11, "Stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face." This comes back to the question that Satan asked in verse 9. He says, "Hey God, does Job serve you for nothing?" In other words, Job is only worshiping you. Job is only loving you. Job is only following you because you constantly hook him up all the time with everything that he wants. This is what Satan says, and Satan's wrong about that because you know the story of the book of Job. God really does allow Satan to buffet him and all of these hardships to come upon him. But instead of cursing God, Job says, "Naked I came from the womb, naked I'll return. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." So Satan, who is not omniscient, predicted that if bad things happened, Job would curse God. But what happened was bad things happened, and Job didn't curse God. Instead, Job kept worshiping God, Job kept loving God, and Job kept following God. I mean, everybody's circumstances are different, and we don't know really what to compare our current circumstances to, but it seems to me that January, February of 2020 were pretty easy and pretty prosperous. And for some reason, now in March of this year, God has allowed, God has sent, God has overseen a particularly difficult set of circumstances, not just for our church, but for all of the churches all around the globe. And we want to follow that example of Job. We want to show that that old devil is a liar and that even when things are lean and difficult and hard, we trust God, we love God, we follow God, we serve God. So this is my exhortation to us, my encouragement to us, that we'll keep walking with God together.